Welcome to Prescott Today. I'm your host, Greg Mengarelli, Mayor of the City of Prescott. We're out at the Fire Center for the U.S. Forest Service. Today we're going to have lots of different guests talking about the Fire Center as well as the fire department and what we can do to prepare for fire season this year. So stay tuned, we have a great show. Our first guest today is Deputy Chief Corey Mosier. Good to have you on the show, Chief.
Good to be here.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So let's just kick off and tell us a little bit about yourself, how long you've been on the department.
Yeah, so thank you for asking. I've lived in the Prescott area since I was 7 years old, graduated from one of the high schools here locally, then went to ASU. And so can't say Prescott born, but Prescott raised for sure. And ever since I was a kid, firefighting is the only thing I've ever wanted to do. In fact, I only wanted to work for the Prescott Fire Department. I would go down to the valley and test at other fire departments down in the valley so I could mess up where it didn't count. And then I'd come back to Prescott and give my best here. And after a while, they finally went ahead and hired me. And 20 years later, it's been such a blessing. I'm so thankful to have worked for the city and so thankful to be part of this fire department.
Well, congrats on 20 years. How long have you been the Deputy Chief?
That was recent. I got promoted this last November. It's a new position, one that we had previously about 10 years ago that we reestablished. And really thankful for this spot too. I've got a great team of people that I'm working with.
So Deputy Chief, what does that entail? What kind of day-to-day stuff are you doing?
So I've got a team of chief officers that I work with and an administrative assistant. And what we're really focused on is interfacing with the agencies that help us meet our mission, planning for the future. We know that Prescott's a growing community, trying to make sure that we have good emergency response capabilities for that. And then a lot of time is spent focusing on our preparedness and our training for our response. And then once we've done these responses, we spend a lot of time evaluating how they went, looking for efficiencies, improvements, innovations, one of the key words that we're focusing on right now, and trying to see how we can provide more to the community with what they give us. That's
awesome. So Prescott Fire was just recently recognized nationally for accreditation. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
We're so proud of that. That was a special effort that Chief Light undertook. He works with the accreditation body evaluating other fire departments, and so he recognized the value of it. And it took a little bit of sales for us as chief officers to get on board with that.
Extra work, right?
And extra work, without a doubt. But we've come to really value it because it's more than just a sticker on the side of our truck that says that we're accredited. What it's done is taught us how to be a data-driven organization. And so there's no more of this, well, Chief Light or Chief Moser thinks this is what we should do. It's trained us to look at numbers, to use those numbers to evaluate our response and look for ways that we can not only be more efficient, but also provide better service. So I think it's one of these benchmark moments where it's more than just waving the flag. The community is really going to see a difference in their services.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate all that data. I was looking over some of that, and it really will help us move forward in the right direction. And so I appreciate you guys' efforts on that. So Prescott is positioned kind of uniquely in that we're in this wildland urban interface, and much of what you do is structural, but talk a little bit about structural versus wildland with our fire department.
Yeah, and so that's a great question. You know, one of the things that the fire service is starting to understand is the name fire department is almost a misnomer for us at this point. We're basically an emergency response department. And if you think about if something happens inside your home and you don't know what to do about it, you call 911 and the folks on the fire engine show up. So we really do a ton of different things for the community. But when it comes to structural firefighting versus wildland firefighting, structural firefighting is contained within a box. Our goal is to keep the fire contained to that point of origin without spreading down the block and turning into a larger problem. And we're sending people inside that box, which is an environment that's immediately dangerous to their life and health. And so the equipment that they have to wear is very different, the SCBAs and the turnouts that everyone's accustomed to seeing. With wildland firefighting, which our people also do, the scope of the emergency is typically much larger than a single home. The factors that contribute to its danger are not based on what's contained inside that box, but it takes into account things like fuel and topography and weather. And so it's an equally dangerous environment to be in, but just for different reasons.
Sure.
And it takes far different training to do both of those.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate both of those disciplines and how well we're trained on both of those. It's very important for Prescott to have that in our fire department. And you're right, Corey, there's so much that our fire department does with medical primarily, but also technical rescue. You guys do a lot of that with the lakes and the different granite dells, rocks, formations around. And so it's amazing all the different techniques and disciplines and expertise you guys have to respond to all these different things. So let me shift a little bit here and talk about interagency cooperation that we have with different groups around the city. Can you speak to that a little bit? Because, we're right next to the forest, and I know we have a relationship with those guys, but speak to some of those agreements and relationships.
Well, the fact is that no agency can afford to have a standing army on their own. Mm-hmm. If we don't work with other departments and other agencies and cross-jurisdictional boundaries, we're all going to fail in our mission. Mm-hmm. So you're exactly right. These automatic and mutual aid agreements that we have are just vital. Two of our primary mutual or automatic aid agreement partners, when it comes to the emergency response component, are Central Arizona Fire Medical Authority. So we work hand in hand with them through Prescott Valley and Chino Valley, and the Forest Service. Mm-hmm. They're one of our closest allies in emergency response, specifically with the wildland realm. And then you have a lot of other organizations, some we're going to talk about hopefully here in just a little bit, that are really valuable, not with the emergency response component, but in helping us have what we need at the community level to make sure that we can take care of these problems. But then these agreements escalate past the local area. We have agreements that become county-wide, so we've helped communities such as Sedona and Cottonwood, and then on into the state and national level as well.
I've heard some of the folks talk about these relationships and just how well our region cooperates. And I hear it's a real unique thing that we have here in Prescott. I don't have that perspective, but some of the other folks who've worked around the country do have that perspective, that it's really unique, the level of cooperation we have here locally, which I think is great. Because it really gives us a higher standard of safety for our citizens, and I appreciate your effort in that. Station 71, Corey, has Forest Service folks that are housed there. Is that right?
Yes, it does. And that really is one of those examples that you're talking about of something that's unique. Even at the national level, we'll have teams of people from the Forest Service and other fire chiefs come in and look at the arrangement that we have in having that Forest Service unit stationed at Station 71. And it really has paid off. A decade or two ago, some key fire chiefs like Darrell Willis and Mike King, they recognized the strategic importance of that station. The fact that if we have a wildland fire in Prescott, it's most likely going to be coming from the south if it's really threatening. And so that station is positioned right on the front lines, as it were. And so because of that, they said, you know what? Let's just have a dual staffed station here. We'll let you all use the south part of our station. And when we get fires that are, within a certain distance into the forest, we're just going to both respond on them. And because of their foresight, it really paid off in 2001 during that Indian fire. Yeah. And not only the joint cooperation, but at that station, but also at the Prescott Regional Airport, and having the Forest Service stationed here with the tankers. Our community would be much less safe if it wasn't for the partnership with the Forest Service. Yeah,
I have a lot of assurance in that. I live on the southwest side of town, so I love seeing those green trucks with our red trucks at Station 71. Yes. We mentioned the accreditation, national accreditation earlier, but there was also another award with EMS recently that we received for our fire department.
So we became a premier EMS agency, and that's a recognition at the state level. And some of the qualifications to receive that designation are very similar to the accreditation. So we have to have a quality assurance program internally that requires that we review certain kinds of calls, and that based on the review of those calls, it directly influences our operation. It goes right into policy manual and procedure. And so because of that, we get this recognition that we're an EMS agency that's on the forefront, cutting edge, as it were, in trying to make sure that the delivery that we give to our community is the best they can get.
Yeah, no, it's good to know, and I appreciate you guys' efforts with that. As we know, medical is one of our primary responses from the fire department. As we approach fire season, Corey, anything else for our viewers that you'd like to mention to them as we approach fire season here?
If I were to say one thing, sometimes it's that that some of the precautions that we ask the community to take in the moment might not seem like that large of a deal. So for instance, if we go into restrictions that say, hey, don't use your chainsaw, or if you use the chainsaw, make sure that you have a spark guard on it, or things of that sort. When you're just trying to get work done, sometimes it's a little frustrating. I understand. I've been in that position too. But we've seen time and again where instances like that lead to big problems for our community. And one of the best things that I've noticed about Prescott is how well the community kind of self-polices and makes sure that everybody's on board with these preventative measures, because things such as the Dosey fire and the Indian fire are still very real to certain members of our community. And so just continue to take those precautions seriously. We appreciate, how it kind of puts people out on occasion, but if they pay attention to that, we're all going to be safer in the end.
Yeah, we all have to work together, right? It's got to be a community effort, and all those little pieces that folks do in our community really add up to some great gains to make sure that we're fire wise. So I appreciate you being on the show. We're going to talk more about what the community can do when we talk to Bob Betts with Powwick right after this. Welcome back, everyone. Our next guest is Bob Betts, who's the chairman of our local Wildland Urban Interface Commission. Bob, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
So let's first start with just you being the chair. You were the chair, took a little break, now you're back.
Yes, yeah.
How long have you been collectively with the Urban Interface Commission?
Since 2013.
2013?
Yeah.
With a little break?
With a little break to go up to Rochester and have some work done on my part.
So how long has the Wildland Urban Interface Commission been active in our city?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, because this year we will celebrate 30 years on September the 7th.
Okay. And in the state, just to give folks perspective, where do we rate in terms of the number of, fire-wise communities that we have?
We are number one in counties across the state of Arizona. Here in Yavapai County, we have 43 active Firewise sites.
Okay.
Those are communities.
Right. Yeah, I live in a Firewise community, and I'm grateful for that because we're on the southwest corner of Prescott, which is critical to ensure that we're being safe and protecting the city. So first, what do you do with the Wildland Urban Interface Commission? What's it about? What's the mission?
The mission is to protect before you have to call the fire department, all right? And through that, having people create defensible space around their homes so that it's safe not only for them, but for the first responders who are going to show up and try to protect your home. So to do that, what we do is we become a clearinghouse for grant money from several different sources. Most notably, for a number of years, it's been strictly the state Department of Forestry and Fire Management. And now we do business with NRCS, which is the Natural Resources Conservation Service. And we're doing a lot of forest stewardship work, which subsequently improves the forest itself, but also improves the communities that are right back up against the forest.
So you do a lot of education to help folks know what is defensible space and how to do that themselves, which we would encourage, of course. But you also get a lot of this money that then could be used on these neighborhoods and private homes. Is that right?
That is correct. We have brought in, since we began, somewhere now over $8.5 million in grant money for mitigation of fuels.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the fact that this commission's been around 30 years. It's so important that the community gets involved. I think that's the real message here, is that there is something that everybody can do at their own home. And really it's about protecting our firefighting folks that come into our communities, right? We want to make sure that we don't have a lot of fuel around our home.
That's correct. It's neighbors helping neighbors is the new theme for Firewise USA.
So as we wrap up here on this section, Bob, tell us, where can folks get more information about the commission?
There's two places to go. One is yavapaifirewise.org, which is our website, or the National Fire Protection Association's website, which is just firewise.org.
Well, I appreciate your leadership in our community. Thanks for stepping back in to our Wildland Urban Interface Commission. And
Glad to do it.
Thank you for all you do for our community. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks for being on the show. Welcome back, everyone. We're with Jeff Andrews with the U.S. Forest Service. Jeff, thanks for being on the show today. Good to have you.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So, Jeff, tell us your role with the Forest Service, how long you've been on the Forest Service?
You bet. So I started with the Forest Service in 1989, so I've been here quite a while now. Most of that time has been here on the Prescott National Forest, and so started here on the Prescott in 1992 on something similar to these trucks behind us right here. So I did about 13 or so years on the Prescott Hotshot crew. And then from there, I transitioned into a couple other leadership positions on the forest as assistant fire management officer, was the center manager at our dispatch center here for a while, and then spent a brief bit of time as the forest FMO. And then for the last 10 years or so, I was the deputy fire staff officer, essentially the deputy chief. And now I've been in my current role for just a month. So old but new once again. And spent a little bit of time at our regional office in Albuquerque prior to this assignment here as the fire staff officer.
So you're essentially the fire chief for the Prescott National Forest.
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
Right.
Yeah.
So you were a hot shot. That's a tough job. Give us your perspective on what it's like to be a hot shot.
Well, it is a challenging job for sure, but it's a really rewarding and enjoyable job to, one, be able to provide the service for the public. We get to travel the country, not only tending to fires here in the Prescott area and the greater Southwest, but really all over the country. And so it was a great opportunity to go to places like Florida, Hawaii, the northeast part of the world, the lake states. And so we got to see a lot of ground there. And you build quite a bit of camaraderie with the group. And so that's very rewarding and enjoyable.
Yeah.
So great times in my career for sure.
Well, and that's a great background for what you're doing now, and you've got a lot of different experience in a lot of different roles. We're here at the Fire Center, so tell us more about what's here, kind of the function of the Fire Center. What happens out here?
You bet. So it's definitely a unique facility in terms of other facilities across the country, and so it's kind of the one-stop shop for preparedness resources. And so not only do we have the hotshot crew housed out of here, we have a helicopter crew, 10-person helicopter crew. We've got the air tanker base as well here at the Prescott Airport. We've got a national fire cache, which we're going to go take a look at a little bit later. We've got our communication center or dispatch center, and then it really serves as a hub for a lot of local and regional training as well. So kind of a one-stop shop, and very few facilities like this anywhere in the country, really.
Yeah, that's good that you describe all that, Jeff, because I think of the Fire Center, I just think of filling slurry bombers, Yeah. But there's so much more that you guys do here. And really, this is a Southwest hub for a lot of those functions. Yeah. There's a lot of different resources, not just planes, but resources that move through this Fire Center for the whole Southwest region.
Correct, for sure. And so this particular center has been around since the early 90s. And so I think we dedicated it in the spring of 91 or 92. As you're well aware of, this sits on 16 acres of city property. And so we've got an agreement and lease in place where we lease the land from the city, and it's a Forest Service owned building. And it may not be too busy at this point in time, but throughout the course of the summer, we can get anywhere from 100 people with lots of different aircraft, whether it be air tankers or light fixed-wing aircraft, helicopters. A lot of our crews and engines get briefed through here and dispatched out of here as well. So it's a pretty busy hub of activity during the fire season.
So up to 100 people might be working here during the heart of fire season. When does that start ramping up? What does that look like? April, May, you guys start to see more staff in here?
Yep, you bet. And so many of our crews, our temporary crews especially, will start to come on in early April. We go through a series of training programs and classes for the first couple weeks, and they get onboarded. And then things really start to ramp up in May, June, depending on the monsoon. Sometimes we're done right there July 1st. Other times it kind of extends into late July and even August at times. So
What does it mean for our Prescott residents, and I'm thinking of our viewers who are watching, to have the Fire Center here? What benefits for our Prescott region?
Yeah, we got a chance to talk to Corey, obviously, earlier in the show, And we've got a great partnership with many of our cooperating agencies. And so to have those partnerships in place, the Prescott Fire Center and all the assets that can be housed here in terms of preparedness and incident response capacity is really unbelievable. So whether it be an Indian fire back in 2001 or the Dosey fire in 2013, to have a turnaround time of just a matter of a couple minutes with our aircraft is a pretty big deal here in the Prescott area, in the greater Prescott area.
Right, and then to have these other resources right here that can be dispatched, whether it be a hotshot crew or some of the other facilities and resources that you have here, we're in great shape for a fire season. How far does the fire center reach? Like, are you going up to fires up in the Northwest, or how far away might this reach?
Good question. So we do have components that reach really all across the country. So we have the cache here, which is basically a warehouse of supplies and equipments. It's one of only a dozen or so caches nationally. And so those supplies and equipment can end up really anywhere in the country. And of course, the large air tankers, they're transient in nature. They're managed out of Boise on a daily basis. And so they may be here for a couple hours. They may be here for a couple days or a couple weeks. And then we dispatch them to Southern California, some of the Intermountain states. And so it's pretty far reach.
Yeah, no, that's great. Anything else that you think our viewers would find interesting to know about the Fire Center here in Prescott?
Well, other than the fact that we're just really fortunate to have it here, I know we're going to tour around a bit and make some stops and talk to some other people, but the cooperation and coordination with the fire departments and other agencies is just spectacular, and this is a pretty good hub to host that out of.
All right, we're going to head inside and take another look inside the Fire Center. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Thanks for coming inside. We're here at the Fire Center overlooking the bays where they actually fill the slurry bombers. And I'm with Aaron Holberg. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. So Aaron, first tell us a little bit about what is this area where we're standing and then kind of what we're looking at outside here.
Okay, so right now we're inside of the Prescott Fire Center, and this is the office, what we call the air tanker base. So what this office does is oversees all the operations associated with some of our aircraft that come in, including our large air tankers and also our fixed wing aircraft that we were able to park them and facilitate response here out of the Fire Center.
So how many folks might be working in here, Aaron, at a time, and when might they start? It's a seasonal job, obviously.
Sure. So we actually have 2 full-time employees that work out of this office. One of them is actually involved in some national training right now. But, so we have 2 people that are up in this office year round. And then based on surge capacity during the year, when it's really busy, we'll have probably 10 or so folks out at the pits loading aircraft. And then also we have 5 or 6 people mixing retardant. So we could have up to 15 or 20 people working to fill our aircraft and respond to incidents here at the air tanker base on a daily basis.
So these folks in here are just coordinating the actual operation outside while it's happening. You said you have 3 different bays here. How long does it take, from the time an airplane pulls into the pit to fill it and see it off?
Well, so we can load 2 aircraft at a time, and we have the 3 pits, and it takes about 7 minutes is the time it takes to load an aircraft, and that's about 4,000 gallons to unload that into an aircraft.
So it's a pretty quick turnaround, honestly. I've watched it a few times when you guys are in action, which is really interesting to see how that's all coordinated and happens. And then, it's nice to know that it's a really quick turnaround. It's important. Time's important, obviously.
Yep, for sure. And then, for instance, like the Indian fire we had or the Dosey fire a couple years ago, literally by the time the aircraft took off, it was dropping its retardant and back within just a few minutes. So it's pretty impressive how quickly we can turn around aircraft and respond.
So what kinds of aircraft are you seeing through here, Aaron? There's lots of different types, I assume.
Yep, so certainly is. We kind of keep it simple. For us, we have 3 categories of air tankers. We have seats, which are the single engine air tankers. They're really small, generally about 700 or 800 gallons is what they load and deliver to the fire. And then we have our large air tankers, and that's really the limit of where we're at here with the bays and to be able to take off at the airport. And those air tankers can load up to 4,000 gallons of retardant. And then the next that we have is our very large air tankers, our DC-10, our 747, and those can load up to 20,000 gallons. And the only place that we're able to facilitate that here in Arizona is down in Phoenix.
So no very large air tankers here, just the large air tankers. Okay.
Yep.
And, I think our viewers understand the difficulty in the summer because we have our commercial jet service now that takes off in the summer. And, sometimes because of the heat and the altitude, it's difficult taking off. I assume you experience some of that same kind of thing here with these tankers.
We certainly do. For the majority, most of our aircraft, we can fully load and operate out of here. But when those really hot days, when density altitude is affected, we have to download a little bit. If we're at a high altitude here and it gets warm, so it affects our response there.
So this runway is just over 7,600 feet long, and in the city we're very aware of that, and we're trying to get that lengthened out to hopefully about 10,000 feet. I'm assuming that will help you guys, much like it'll help our commercial jet service to take off during those times.
You bet. It increases our margin of safety a little bit. It gives those pilots a little bit more. It's just a little bit safer environment. And then plus, if we had a little bit extra capacity with the runway, we could upload our aircraft to fully the amount of gallons that they need to. We download it sometimes on those higher temperature days, about 500 gallons.
Okay.
So it would help us out there.
Yep, absolutely. So anything else our viewers might want to know about this specific operation here at the Fire Center?
Well, I would say, Corey and Jeff hit on it. They both talked about just the cooperation, and we're working right here on City of Prescott land, directly with the airport. It's just key to the response that we're able to provide here, not only to our local community, but also everywhere in Arizona or even New Mexico. We respond from here to multiple incidents and help out. So without the relationship we have with the airport, the Prescott Fire Department, and the city, we just wouldn't be successful, and we really appreciate it. So,
yeah, well, thanks for being here. Thanks for what you do for fighting fires here during our fire season, and thanks for the quick tour here of what's going on with the retardant. So appreciate you being on the show. Thanks,
Thank you.
Aaron. Welcome back. We've moved into the dispatch center. We're here with Barry Wallace, who is the dispatch center manager. Barry, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So this is just a whole nother facet here in the fire center. There's so many different parts of this thing, but what do you guys do here in the dispatch center?
So our main role in fire management is I'd sum it up with communications and support. So on the communication side, we're in touch with all the resources in the field via radio, and tracking resources throughout the day. If there's no fires going on, it's just making sure those resources get home safely at the end of the day. When we do have a fire, that's when the support side comes in. So we will initiate the response on the radio. We'll send resources towards that fire. And from then on, it's simply about providing support and service to that incident. So if they need a crew, or if they need engines, they need aircraft, they need supplies, those requests would come through us, and we'd facilitate getting the fire what they need.
Okay. What kind of area are you guys covering here? How big? What different entities?
Sure. Yeah, so right here locally, we dispatch for the Prescott National Forest, and then we also provide dispatch services to 3 other federal agencies. So we dispatch for Bureau of Land Management, Bureau of Indian Affairs, and also the Fish and Wildlife Service. And as far as the coverage area, kind of like you see on the map here, it's all the yellow, orange, green land. So most of central and west Arizona. So our coverage area goes from Prescott down to Yuma. We've got a little piece of the Mexico border, up the Colorado River to Kingman, and then everything in between. So 4 federal agencies that we dispatch for.
Mostly fire, but there's some other incidents you might respond to?
That's true. Yeah, it is mostly fire for sure. But we have elements where we need to deal with a law enforcement emergency, hazardous materials, natural disasters. Really any range of incident that occurs on federal lands. Our number is widely published, so if something, a member of the public sees something, they'll call it in, and we'll help facilitate that. Another example, search and rescue. So we'll coordinate with the county on that. So, yeah.
A lot of times you're probably directing resources back to the county, to make them aware so that they can then get involved if it's county or municipality, I suppose, on some of those kinds of incidents.
Absolutely. And that's a key to our success here is just the partnerships that we have. At the federal level, our neighboring federal dispatch centers. At the state level, there's the Arizona State Dispatch Center in Phoenix. At the county level, certainly with Yavapai County here locally. And at the local level, there's the Prescott Regional Communications Center. So we have real good relationships with each of those levels, and it's really key to our success.
Yeah, that's kind of a theme on this show, really, is just cooperation from all the different entities and agencies, which I think Prescott really is a great example across the country for that kind of cooperation.
For sure.
So, Barry, what season are you really, I assume it's fire season when you're really hopping in here?
Correct, yeah. So we're kind of leading into the fire season right now in March. History will tell us that in terms of fire occurrence, things will start to pick up in the middle of April and then really spike from May through June, July, August, and really doesn't taper off until September. We do get the Arizona monsoon season with a lot of rain typically in July and August, but with that comes the lightning component. So while we're dealing with human-caused fire occurrence May, June, we're dealing with a lot of lightning fire occurrence in July and August. So, usually tapers off, into October.
How many folks do you have working in here, especially during your busy time?
Sure. So we've got 8 permanent staff here, and we've got 9 workstations out here on the floor. So during the active part of the season, each one of these workstations will be staffed from our permanent staff, and then we'll also bring in support as well from other areas or the local militia from the Prescott National Forest. They'll help out as well. And then we usually implement a night shift as well at some point just to give us that 24-hour coverage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes sense. Anything else our viewers should know about the dispatch center here?
I just say that our primary mission is to provide excellent customer service to the resources in the field, and then when we have an incident, a large fire, providing that support and service. So that's what we're all about.
Barry, thanks for being on the show. Thanks for what you do here in the dispatch center.
I appreciate you being here.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. We're in the cache or warehouse here at the Fire Center, and I'm with Sean Ware, who is the manager of the cache. So you manage all the cache, but not CASH.
Correct. That would be a correct statement.
So, Sean, tell us what's going on in here. There's a lot of different supplies in here. What happens here in the cache?
So the cache is designed to acquire, store, issue, and refurb equipment supporting wildland fire operations. And that also goes into what we call incidents or natural disasters. So we can handle anything from tornadoes, earthquakes. We even supported the Amazon fire in Argentina last year, and we supported the hurricane efforts in Puerto Rico. So it just depends on the call from whomever. We can support anything that's need be.
That's a big reach.
That is a big reach.
Worldwide reach. Wow. So not only wildland operations are you supporting, but different natural disasters. I didn't realize that. Give us some sense of how much you have in here, like a dollar value that you keep in here.
Okay. Well, the Prescott Fire Cache is about a 14,000 square foot facility. We have 865 line items, 300,000 units for a total dollar value of about 8.6. So right now we're sitting at $7 million, but when we're full, we're in the mid $8 million range.
Okay.
And that's our total, those are our stats, but that's what we can hold at this point.
Yeah, well, this is a big operation. You said all the refurb, when things come back, you rehab or refurb those right here.
Yes. So in support of wildland fire, the teams will send us a order. We will then process that order. We'll pull the order, stage it, deliver it. Then once the incident is done, we'll go back out, pick it back up, and that's kind of when the fun begins. We separated things out for anything that can be put right back on the shelf versus anything that needs to be what we call refurbished. And that refurbishment can take wash, repair, patch, sew, weld, just depends on what that item is versus the fix that it needs in order for it to make it what we call R-Fire or ready for issue again. And then once that is done, we turn right around and we put it right back on the shelf for the next incident. We want to make sure that the user, wildfire fighters in this case, doesn't know whether it's been issued, this is the first issue or the 1,000th issue of that item. And then if it doesn't meet our standard, then we take it out of stock and then replace it with new issue.
So give us some sense, there's a broad spectrum of supplies here, uniforms, generators, chainsaws.
That exactly right. We have everything from the paperclip up to 20-foot octagonal shelters that are used as offices in this case. So we are here to support the incident management teams in their first 48 hours of stand-up. Once they get to a location, we then get their order to them and they build a small city and we keep supplying them as needed for the duration that they determine. Once they decide to close that incident down, we go back out and like I said, we bring everything back and we start the magic here.
So this is a year-round operation. Is there a busier season or busier time for you?
Primarily our season starts in May, goes through June or July or when the monsoons come. And then after our season is done, we are one of 15 total nationwide. And then we kind of draw down our stock here to a point and then ship our equipment to the requesting organization, to be it anything through the West or through the Rockies or East Coast. So it just depends on where it's going. But for the most part, we will then ship our equipment to another cache that is there. Once our season draws down and theirs is starting to spin up, we will then ship our equipment to help them. And the reason for that is that we help the taxpayer by utilizing the same equipment. Everybody stores the same, just about the same equipment. So for the most part, we are just changing the distribution and storage area of equipment.
Very good. How many folks are working here in the cache?
We are staffed for 9 either permanent seasonal, or temporary workers. And we also have a dedicated staff of administratively determined or emergency hire ADs. And we bring them on when we need.
Okay.
And we kind of have a preseason, which is the time now. We're in late February, early March. Then our mid-season or our season, and then our postseason, which includes November, December, and that's when we do our annual inventory where we count everything and make sure that we have what the record says we're supposed to have.
Yep. More of a downtime where you can catch up on those kinds of things. Anything else our viewers would want to know about the cache here? Something unique?
I think it's just the amount of equipment that the amount of equipment and just, the people and incidents that we support. So, like I said, we can support international incidents when necessary. It just depends on, what happens and if we get the call.
Yeah, no, that's great. I would have never known that about this fire center and this cache that you're helping folks around the globe when there are natural disasters. So thanks for being on the show. Thanks for what you do.
Sure. Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Thanks for tuning in today. That's all the time we have. I want to thank all of our guests that have been on the show today. I want to wish everybody a very safe fire season, especially our firefighters out there. Thanks for tuning in.